5 days of sailing west, and everyone knew this voyage was different.
This time, we're sailing into the dragon's lair.
Penny, for your thoughts?
Just thinking how far we've come.
Being scared and being brave? They're basically roommates at this point.
Secure the ropes on the port side.
Whoa!
Hoist the mainsail. Faster, you dogs.
Captain, the forward cannons are ready!
Good. Take us out.
4 artifacts.
Four sources of incredible power.
Each hero learning to wield their artifacts' unique abilities.
My name is Declan Stormblade, and I am charged with protecting Valorian. Join me on my quest as we read our audiobook series.
Welcome, adventurers, to the Heroes of Valorian. Really special story for you tonight. We've got part 1 of a 2 little book series here at the end of our second quest, which is Search for the 7 Artifacts. Okay, and that is the showdown with the dragon. Okay, Stonefang. Just as a reminder, that's our map there. We've sailed all the way around the north end of the island. In the audiobook that you're going to hear tonight, okay, we're going in from the west side and we're going to Stonefang's lair. We have some really cool pictures to show you, and it's going to be a really great story. 2 rules before we get started here on the podcast. Rule number 1, please like and subscribe. Hit that thumbs up button so that other people can find us, right? That's how the algorithm gets updated, to let other people know about our audiobooks. And then also please subscribe so that you know when our next story comes out, so that you can hear the end. You don't want to not hear the end of the story, so make sure you subscribe. Rule number 2, got to have our magical artifacts. I went to the gym today, so I'm going to use the regeneration crystal, which has healing properties. I'm going to recover from my workout today. What magical artifact do you have, bud?
Flame tooth.
The flame tooth. You really like to control fire, huh? I guess if you're going to go fight a dragon, you better, be ready to fight some fire, control some fire. All right, so here we go. Let's get started. It looks like our heroes are getting a little practice in. The quest for the 7 artifacts into the Dragon's Den, Part 1, Book 6 of the 7 Artifacts Saga. Chapter 1, The Final Voyage. 5 days of sailing west, and every one of the storm chaser knew this voyage was different. This wasn't exploration or discovery. This wasn't a race to reach an artifact before Stonefang's agents. This was sailing directly into the dragon's lair, knowing full well he was waiting for them. Declan stood at the bow, watching the western mountains grow larger on the horizon. Somewhere in those dark peaks, Stonefang had fortified his stronghold. Somewhere ahead, the final confrontation awaited. Penny, for your thoughts? Alindra joined him at the railing. Just thinking about how far we've come, Declan said. Remember, when we were just trying to survive the twisted thicket? Alindra smiled. We were so young. Well, you were. I was still the wise elder at 23. Ancient, Pip agreed, joining them. He was eating an apple and looking remarkably calm for someone sailing toward Dragon's Den. Practically decrepit. You're nervous, Alindra observed. Terrified, Pip corrected cheerfully. But I've learned that being scared and being brave aren't opposites. They're basically roommates at this point. Over the past days, they prepared as best as they could. Captain Mara had drilled the crew on defensive formations. Torben and Kira had sharpened every weapon aboard. The heroes had practiced using the artifacts together, learning to combine their powers. The Tidestone could pull water from the air, from the sea, or from anywhere. The Storm's Eye could call lightning, even on a clear day. The Starweave Crown revealed truth and pierced illusions. The Flame Core controlled fire with devastating precision. 4 artifacts, 4 sources of incredible power. And according to everything they knew, Stonefang had none. His 7th artifact had been stolen centuries ago by an old enemy, and he'd never recovered it. So why did Declan feel that they were walking into a trap? He's too confident, Declan said quietly. When Sarah told us he was waiting for us, fortifying his lair, awakening something agent, he's not afraid. We have 4 artifacts and he has none. He should be desperate, but he's not. Perhaps this ancient weapon levels the playing field, Alindra suggested. Or tips it in his favor, Pip added, just to be pessimistic about it. On the 3rd day, they held a council of war in the captain's quarters. We leave the artifacts on the ship, Declan had announced. Everyone stared at him. What? Pip said. Did you hit your head? The magic rocks are literally our only advantage. Think about it, Declan explained. Stonefang wants the artifacts. If we bring them into his fortress, we're delivering them directly to him. But if we leave them on the ship, guarded by Captain Mara and the crew, they're safer. And if he captures us, Alindra asked. Then the artifacts are still safe, Declan said. Look, I don't like it either, but this is his fortress, his home ground, his trap. We need to scout first, learn the layout, find weaknesses, and we do that without giving him what he wants. Captain Mara had nodded approvingly. Smart thinking. My crew and I will defend these artifacts with our lives if necessary. Zephyr and Ember had chirped nervously when told they'd be staying with the ship too. The pseudo-dragons sensed what lay ahead, and their distress was obvious. I know, Declan had whispered, stroking Zephyr's silvery blue scales. But if we need to be stealthy, 2 dragons, even small ones, will give us away. You'll be safer here. The artifacts need protection too. Ember had nuzzled against his cheek, making small, sad sounds. Now, I'll come back, Declan promised. We all will. Now, on the 5th day, the western mountains filled the horizon. Dark, jagged peaks, wreathed in clouds, and at the center, slightly smoking, was an old volcano. That's it, Kira called from the crow's nest. I can see structures carved into the mountainside and camps around the base. Captain Mara ordered the ship to a hidden cove several miles south of Stonefang's mountain. They'd land there, make their approach on foot under cover of darkness. As the sun set that evening, painting the sky in reds and purple, the crew gathered on the deck. Captain Mara stood before them, backlit by sunset. 5 months ago, she began, 3 young heroes chartered this ship for what they thought would be a short voyage. Instead, I think it's 5 weeks ago, we fought sea serpents, pirates, a kraken, and fire demons. We've weathered storms with what would have sunk lesser ships, and we've seen wonders that most sailors only hear about in taverns, the crew murmured in agreement. Tomorrow, these 3 heroes will face their greatest challenge yet. They'll infiltrate a dragon's lair to stop ancient evil from claiming artifacts of immense power. And while they're in that mountain, we'll guard those artifacts with everything we have. She looked at Declan, Pip, and Alindra. You 3 have grown from uncertain youths into heroes worthy of legend. Whatever happens tomorrow, know that we're proud to have sailed with you. Torben raised his mung. To the artifact hunters. To the dragon slayers, Kira added. To the bravest fools I've ever met, one other sailor called. Everyone laughed and drank. Even Pip, who normally had a joke for everything, seemed moved by the moment. That night, Declan lay in his hammock, unable to sleep, and in the morning, they would land. They would begin the infiltration. And whatever Stonefang had planned, they'd face it together. Zephyr and Ember curled up on his chest, both pseudo-dragons unusually quiet. It'll be okay, Declan whispered to them. We've made it this far. But as he finally drifted off to sleep, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for them in that mountain. Something old and something terrible. Something that made even dragons confident. Chapter 2, Landing and Reconnaissance. They landed at dawn in a sheltered cove well south of Stonefang's mountain. The beach was rocky and wild, with no signs of habitation, perfect for staying hidden. Captain Mara supervised the crew as they secured the ship and established a defensive perimeter. The 4 artifacts, Tidestone, Storm's Eye, Starweave Crown, and the Flame Core, were locked in a reinforced chest in the captain's quarters, with armed guards posted outside. Declan pulled out the telescope of far-seeing and focused on the distant mountain. Through the magical lens, the fortress became clear. The mountain's face had been carved away to reveal massive stone structures, towers, battlements, and a huge main entrance guarded by enormous doors. Around the base of the mountain, they could see at least 3 separate camps of cultists, each with dozens of tents. There must be hundreds of people camped around that mountain, Declan said, passing the telescope to Alindra. She looked, her elven eyes sharp even without magical aid. More than 100. I see patrols between the camps, guards at multiple entrances. This isn't just a lair, it's a fortress. Any sign of Stonefang himself? Pip asked. No, but look there, Alindra pointed. Smaller entrance on the northern face, partially hidden by rock formations. Only 2 guards visible. That's our entry point, Declan decided. We approach from the north, neutralize the guards quietly, slip inside before anyone notices. And once we're inside, Pip asked. Scout. Learn the layout. Find Stonefang's location and his ancient weapon. See if there are any artifacts or information we can use. Then get out and plan our real assault. So this is reconnaissance, Alindra clarified, not the final battle. Not yet, Declan confirmed. We need intelligence first. They spent the day preparing. Weapons were sharpened. Supplies were packed light. Just water, rope, and emergency rations. They couldn't afford to be weighted down during a stealth mission. Saying goodbye to Zephyr and Ember was harder than Declan expected. The pseudo-dragons flew circles around him, chirping frantically, clearly upset. I know you want to come, Declan said, catching Zephyr, holding the small dragon gently. But we need to be quiet this time. Someone needs to protect the artifacts. Ember landed on his shoulder and nuzzled his neck, making small distressed sounds. Be brave, Declan whispered. Like you've taught me to be. Captain Mara approached, her expression serious. If you're not back in 3 days, we're coming after you. If I'm not back in 3 days, Pip said, we're probably very dead, and you should sail away very fast. Pip, Alindra said warningly. What? I'm just being realistic about. Declan put his hand on Pip's shoulders. We'll be back. 3 days maximum. As the sun set along the north coast, staying hidden among the rocks, the mountain looked doomed. The route ahead loomed, dark and foreboding against the twilight sky. They moved carefully, using every bit of cover. Declan's ranger training guided them around patrols. Pip's rogue instincts helped them avoid detection. Alindra's elven senses warned them of dangers ahead. It took 4 hours to circle the northern approach. By the time they reached the base of the mountain, it was full dark, with only starlight to see by. The small entrance Alindra had spotted through the telescope was ahead. Carved into the mountainside and partially hidden by fallen boulders, 2 guards stood watch, cultists in dark robes armed with spears. How do we handle this? Pip whispered. Quietly, Alindra said, and she drew her blessed sword, but kept it from glowing. Declan, can you... Declan was already drawing his bow. Arrow knocked. He took a breath, aimed, and fired. The arrow struck the first guard in the shoulder. Not lethal, but enough to drop him silently. Before the second guard could react, Alindra had crossed the distance and struck him with the pommel of her sword, knocking him unconscious. They dragged both guards into the shadows and bound them with rope. Sorry about this, Pip said, gagging them. Nothing personal. You're just working for an evil dragon that we're trying to stop from destroying the world. Classic conflict of interest. The entrance was a narrow tunnel, carved through solid rock, descending into darkness. They could see torchlight far ahead. Last chance to turn back, Declan said, half joking. We sailed 5 days for this, Pip replied. Wouldn't it be awkward to leave now? Then let's see what Stonefang has been hiding, Alindra said. They entered the tunnel, and the mountain swallowed them whole. Chapter 3, Ambush at Sea. They were 200 yards in the tunnel when they heard it, a distant boom like thunder coming from outside. All three froze. That came from the direction of the cove, Alindra said, her elven ears sharp. Another boom, then another. And then, faintly, what might have been screams. Declan's blood ran cold. The ship. They ran back to the entrance, and from their position high on the mountain's northern face, they could see a distant cove where the storm chaser was anchored. And in the water around it, dark shapes were rising. Sea serpents, Alindra breathed. At least 4 of them. Through the darkness, they could see the chaos. The serpents were attacking the ship from all sides. Torchlight flared as the crew fought back. Ballast fired. Someone was using fire, probably one of the crew with oil torches. We have to go back, Pip said immediately. We can't, Declan said, his voice tight with frustration. By the time we get there, the battle will be over. And if we leave now, Stonefang will know we were here. The crew can handle sea serpents, Alindra said, trying to sound confident. They fought them before. Captain Mara is experienced. And the artifacts are in a reinforced chest below the decks. Another explosion of water as one serpent's tail smashed into the ship's side. This is the trap, Declan realized suddenly. Stonefang is testing us. He attacks the ship to see if we'll abandon the mission. If we turn back now, we confirm we're here. But if we press on, he still knows we're here because his guards are unconscious, Pip pointed out. Yes, but he doesn't know if we fled or advanced, Alindra said, understanding. This forces our hand. Either way, he learns something. So what do we do? Pip asked. Declan watched the distant battle, his heart torn. His friends, Captain Mara, Torben, Kira, all of them were fighting for their lives. Zephyr and Ember were down there, probably terrified. But turning back now would achieve nothing except letting Stonefang know his distraction worked. We go forward, Declan said quietly. We move fast. We learn what we can and get back to help as quickly as possible. The crew has fought sea serpents before. They can handle this. I hope you're right, Pip said. They turned back into the tunnel, but now there was added urgency. Whatever time they thought they had was gone, and Stonefang was making his move. They had to be smarter, faster, and they had to hope their friends could survive without them. Chapter 4, Infiltrating the Camps. The tunnel descended for what felt like miles, twisting through and turning through the mountain's interior. Torches lit the way at intervals, and they had to move carefully, listening for any sound of guards or patrols. Why don't we have the magic crowns and firestones? Pip whispered. This would be so much easier with magic. Because they're safe on the ship, Declan replied, and after what we just saw, I'm glad we left them there. If we brought them into this mountain, Stonefang would have them by now, Alindra finished, assuming this tunnel isn't also a trap. It wasn't a comforting thought. Finally, the tunnel opened into a large chamber, natural cave that had been expanded and modified. They could hear voices ahead, and the flicker of firelight suggested multiple torches or a large campfire. They crept to the edge and looked down. Below them, carved in the mountain interior, was a massive terraced chamber. 3 separate camps had been established at different levels, each with tents, cookie fires, supplies, dozens of cultists moving about. It's like an anthill, Pip breathed. There must be 100 people down there. This is just one section. Look, there are tunnels leading to other areas. This is more than a fortress. It's a small city. They couldn't cross through the camps without being seen, but there was a narrow ledge which ran along the chamber's wall, high above the camps. It looked like it connected to another tunnel on the far side. That's our path, Declan said. Stay low and stay quiet. Don't look down. The ledge was barely 2 feet wide and ran for over 100 yards. Below, the cultists went about their business, completely unaware of the 3 infiltrators creeping along the wall high above them. Halfway across, Pip's foot slipped slightly on a loose stone. A pebble fell, bouncing down the wall and landing in one of the camps below. All 3 froze. A cultist looked up, frowning at the falling stone. His eyes scanned the wall, moving closer to where they stood, pressed flat against the rock. Declan's hand was on his knife, Alindra's was on her sword, and Pip barely breathed. The cultist stared for a long moment, and then shrugged and returned to his fire. They waited a full minute before continuing, their hearts pounding. When they finally reached the far side and slipped into another tunnel, Pip let out a shaky breath. "I'm going to have nightmares about that ledge for years," he muttered. The tunnel led deeper into the mountain, where they were heading toward the center now, toward whatever Stonefang was hiding. And then they heard voices ahead, a patrol. 4 cultists were walking their direction, talking casually. There was nowhere to hide in the narrow tunnel. No side passages, no shadows deep enough. "Fight?" Pip asked quietly, hand on his daggers. "No choice," Declan confirmed, drawing an arrow, fast and quiet. "I'll take the 2 on the left," Alindra whispered. "Right side," Declan said. The patrol rounded the corner and froze when they saw the 3 heroes. For one heartbeat, both groups stared at each other. Then Declan fired. His arrow took the first cultist right in the chest before anyone could react. Alindra lunged forward, her sword flashing in the torchlight, and struck down the second cultist with brutal efficiency. The third cultist raised his spear, but Pip was faster, darting in low and driving his dagger into the man's side. The fourth turned to run to raise the alarm, but Declan's second arrow caught him in the back. It was over in seconds. "We need to move," Alindra said urgently. "If they don't report back, someone will be looking." They dragged them into a side alcove and covered them as best they could, then continued deeper into the mountain. The tunnel was sloping downward now, and the air was getting warmer. They could hear something ahead, a distant rhythmic sound, almost like breathing, but massive, deep. "Please tell me that's just the mountain settling," Pip said. "I don't think the mountain breathes," Alindra replied. They pressed on, and the sound grew louder, and with it came a smell. Sulfur and old smoke, and something else, something ancient. The tunnel opened into a landing that overlooked an enormous chamber below, and what they saw made them all stop and stare. The chamber was easily 200 feet high and twice as wide, and it was filled with things. Treasures, first. Mountains of gold, jewels, weapons, armor, magical artifacts of every kind imaginable. The wealth of a dragon's hoard accumulated over centuries. And everywhere, standing in rows like a silent army, were golems, hundreds of them, stone golems, iron golems, clay golems, crystal golems, all inactive but ready. "He's been preparing for war," Declan breathed. But that wasn't made them all step back in shock. In the very center of the chamber, coiled around a massive pillar of stone, was Stonefang himself. The red dragon was enormous, easily 50 feet long from nose to tail, with scales that gleamed like polished rubies in the torchlight. His wings were folded against his sides, and smoke drifted from his nostrils. He appeared to be sleeping, but even in his sleep he was terrifying. Beside him, partially hidden in shadow, was something else, something bigger. "What is that?" Pip whispered. They couldn't see it clearly from their angle, but they could see part of a massive wing and scales that looked almost black, and a voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant and amused. Well, the little thieves have arrived." Stonefang's eyes opened. They glowed like embers in the darkness. They were looking directly at the landing where the 3 heroes stood. "Did you really think," the dragon continued, "that I didn't know you were coming?" Chapter 5. The Trap Maze. They ran. Behind them, Stonefang's laughter boomed through the chamber, shaking dust from the ceiling. But he didn't pursue. He didn't need to. "To me!" The dragon's voice roared, and throughout the mountain alarms began to sound. The 3 heroes sprinted back through the tunnel they'd come from, but the way was already blocked. A massive iron gate had dropped from the ceiling, sealing the passage. "This way!" Alindra spotted a side tunnel that led them down it. The passage was narrow and twisting, clearly not meant for regular use, and it smelled of dust and old stone. Behind them they could hear footsteps. Many footsteps. Cultists were converging in all directions. The tunnel opened into a long corridor lined with ornate pillars and decorated with ancient mosaics. They look older than the rest of the fortress, as if they'd found the original structure that Stonefang had built around. Keep moving, Declan urged. Find another way out, or another way to... Pip stepped on a stone tile that clicked softly. Oh no, he had time to say. A section of the floor dropped away, revealing a pit filled with sharpened stakes. Pip barely jumped to the side in time. Traps, Alindra warned unnecessarily. They moved more carefully now, watching each step, but the corridor was long, and every few yards brought a new threat. Pressure plates triggered poison darts from the walls, tripwires that activated swinging blade pendulums, floor sections that collapsed into pits of spikes or acid, ceiling tiles that dropped massive stone blocks. This is insane, Pip said, dodging another dart trap. Who puts this many traps in their own house? Someone who doesn't want visitors, Alindra replied, using her sword to trigger a pressure plate from a distance. Blades swung across the corridor where they would have been standing. Declan pulled out the star-weaved crown and placed it on his head. Immediately, the corridor transformed. Through the crown's power, he could see the truth beneath the illusions. The trap triggers glowed with faint light. The safe paths were highlighted. Some of the walls and pillars weren't real at all. They were illusions, hiding more traps. This way, he said with more confidence. Step exactly where I step. They moved faster now, and Declan leading with the crown, showing him the safe path. They navigated through the deadly corridor, avoiding trap after trap. And then they encountered something the crown couldn't help with. One of the treasures piled against the wall stood up. It looked like a golden statue, beautiful, ornate, priceless. But as they approached it, it shifted, its form becoming fluid and wrong. The statue's face twisted into something hungry and predatory. Deceiver, Alindra warned, recognizing the creature from old tales. Don't trust anything you see. The Deceiver lunged, its golden form melting into something with too many arms and teeth like knives. Alindra met it with her blessed sword, and the blade cut through the creature's false form, revealing the dark spirit underneath. Two more Deceivers appeared, having been disguised as treasure chests and a suit of armor. They were magical creatures that fed on confusion and fear, showing people what they wanted to see before attacking. The battle was fierce in a narrow corridor. Declan fired arrows at one Deceiver, aiming for what the crown showed him was the true form beneath the illusion. Pip dodged and struck with daggers, his agility keeping him alive, and Alindra's blessed sword seemed particularly effective against the creature's dark magic. One Deceiver showed Declan an illusion of Zephyr and Ember, crying for help. But through the star-weaved crown he saw the truth, just another predator. He fired without hesitation. After a fierce battle, all three Deceivers lay destroyed, their illusionary forms melting away to reveal twisted, shadowy corpses. How many more of these corridors? Pip gasped, breathing hard. We're deeper in the mountain now, Alindra said. We must be getting close to the center. They continued through the trap maze, the crown guiding them around dangers, through illusions, and the corridor opened into a wider hall, and ahead they could see massive doors, ancient and covered in ruins that glowed with faint magic. Whatever's through there, Declan said, it's important. Why else guard it with all these traps? Let's find out, Alindra said. Declan examined the doors with the crown's powers. No traps, no hidden mechanisms, just doors. He pushed them open. Oh boy. Chapter 6. The Golem Army. The chamber beyond was vast, a vaulted hall that might have once been a throne room or ceremonial space. Ancient pillars supported a ceiling, lost in shadows above and filling the entire chamber. Standing in perfect rows were golems. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Stone columns, each carved from granite, their forms vaguely humanoid but twice as large as a man. Iron golems, their metal bodies scarred and dented from ancient battles. Clay golems, their surfaces covered in magical ruins. And in the back, larger than the rest, 3 massive crystal golems that sparkled with internal light. All of them stood perfectly still, inactive. Stonefang's army, Alindra breathed. Centuries of collected guardians. Can we just walk through? Pip asked hopefully. They took a careful step into the chamber. Every golem's head turned and looked at them. "That's a no," Pip said. The golems began to move, their ancient joints grinding, row after row of constructs stepping forward, surrounding the three intruders on all sides. "Run!" Declan shouted, but there was nowhere to run. Golems blocked every exit. A stone golem swung a massive fist, and Alindra blocked it with her sword, but the force of impact drove her backwards. These weren't mindless constructs. They moved with purpose and coordination. "We can't fight them all," Pip yelled, dodging another attack. "Don't fight. Find the control," Declan shouted back, remembering how the golems had been standing in formation. Someone had put them there. Someone controlled them. While Alindra and Pip fought defensively, barely staying ahead of the golem's attacks, Declan searched the chamber for the starweave crown. There, at the far end of the hall and on a raised platform, an ancient control pedestal covered in magical ruins. That was how Stonefang commanded his Golem army. "Cover me," Declan yelled, running for the pedestal. A stone golem stepped in his path. Pip appeared from nowhere, driving his daggers in the ruins on the golem's leg, and the construct stumbled. Declan vaulted over it. An iron golem swung at him with a massive blade, and Alindra's sword intercepted the blow with a shower of sparks. Declan reached the pedestal, but it was covered in ruins, complex and interlocking. A puzzle lock. Dozens of golems were closing in. He placed his hands on the pedestal, and through the starweave crown, he saw the solution. The ruins needed to be activated in a specific sequence, like a combination, but with magical symbols instead of numbers. The crown showed him the pattern. His fingers flew across the ruins, pressing each in the correct order. A clay golem grabbed Alindra, lifting her off the ground, and she struck it repeatedly with her sword, but the blessed blade couldn't cut clay. Pip tried to help, but was knocked aside by a stone fist. Declan pressed the final ruin. The pedestal blazed with light, and every golem in the chamber froze mid-motion. The clay golem dropped Alindra, and the stone golem stopped in their advance. Then, like puppets with cut strings, they all collapsed. Every single golem fell to the ground, inert and powerless. The silence was deafening. "Is everyone all right?" Declan called out. "Define all right," Pip groaned from where he'd been knocked into a pile of inactive stone golems. Alindra picked herself up, checking for injuries. "Bruised, but functional. That was too close." They stood among the fallen golems, breathing hard. The chamber floor was covered in collapsed constructs, like a battlefield after a massacre. "Let's not activate any more ancient defense systems," Pip suggested, "just as a general policy." Through the hall, another set of doors led deeper into the mountain. These doors were different, newer, reinforced with iron bands, and clearly significant. "Beyond this," Alindra said, "must be Stonefang's inner sanctum." "Where the seventh artifact should be," Declan added. They approached the doors carefully. There were no more traps. Perhaps Stonefang had thought the golem army was defense enough. Declan pushed the doors open, and they entered the dragon's inner chamber. Chapter 7. The Empty Vault. The chamber was magnificent. The walls were carved with intricate scenes of dragons in fight, ancient battles, and legends lost to time. Magical torches burned with eternal flames. The ceiling was a dome painted with constellations that seemed to move slowly overhead. In the very center of the chamber, on a raised circular platform surrounded by rings of magical runes, sat a pedestal, empty. Where an artifact should have rested, where something powerful should have been displayed, there was nothing. Just an empty pedestal with deep scratch marks in the stone, as if something had been violently torn away. "It's not here," Pip said, stating the obvious. "The seventh artifact," Alindra said, walking slowly around the pedestal. "It really is gone." Declan examined the chamber with the starweave crown. Through the crown's power, he could see the faint traces of old magic, echoes of something powerful that had once been here. But the artifact itself was long gone. Around the chamber, on ornate tables and shelves, were scrolls and books, records. Alindra began reading. Her elven eyes clicked quick. "These are histories, ancient dragon chronicles. This one talks about the 7 artifacts, how they were created by ancient mages to balance the elemental forces of the world. Then this one, Declan said, reading another scroll, talks about a war between dragons centuries ago. 2 dragon lords fought for territory and power. Pip found a journal, its pages filled with cramped handwriting. This one's recent, maybe 50 years old. It's Stonefang. It's Stonefang's journal. He read aloud. The betrayal still burns. Ashenclaw helped me create the greatest hoard in history, only to steal the one piece that mattered most. My dark star, my 7th artifact. The crystal that could command shadows themselves. He took it from me and fled to the northwest waste. I will find him. I will reclaim what is mine. Ashenclaw, Alindra repeated. Another dragon? An old enemy who stole the 7th artifact? They pieced together the story from various scrolls and journals. Centuries ago, Stonefang and another dragon called Ashenclaw had been allies, and together they'd amassed power and wealth. But when Stonefang acquired the 7th artifact, a dark crystal of immense power, Ashenclaw had betrayed him, stealing the artifact during a battle and fleeing. Stonefang had spent centuries searching for both the dragon and the artifact. His obsession had grown into madness. He tried to collect the other 6 artifacts, hoping to use their combined power to track down the 7th. But the heroes had beaten him to them. So neither of us has all 7 artifacts, Declan said. We have 4. Ashenclaw has 1, and the orb and Shadowheart are sealed in Ashenmoor. And Stonefang has none, Pip added. So why is he so confident? That was when they heard it. The sound that haunted them since entering the mountain. The deep, rhythmic breathing. Closer now. And then Stonefang's voice, magically amplified to echo through the entire fortress.
I hope you're enjoying your little tour of my home, thieves.
They froze.
Do you really think I didn't know you were here? I have watched you since you entered my camps. Every step has been exactly where I wanted you to go.
The breathing sound was louder. Whatever was making it was massive, and it was approaching.
I don't need the 7th artifact,
Stonefang continued,
because I have something better. Something I have been saving for a special occasion.
A roar echoed through the mountains. But it wasn't Stonefang's voice. It was deeper, older, and more terrifying.
Meet Ashenclaw, the Eternal, Stonefang said. My old mentor and greatest teacher, the dragon who taught me everything about power.
Through the chamber's walls, through the stone itself, they heard something moving, something huge. Wait, Pip said. If Ashenclaw stole the artifact, why would he help Stonefang now?
Because,
Stonefang's voice was full of darker music,
I found him hibernating in the northern waste, ancient and powerful and sleeping. I woke him. I reminded him that the greatest joy in life is teaching dragons.
The mountains shook and dust fell from the ceiling.
You wanted to infiltrate my fortress? Congratulations. You're here. You are trapped. And you are about to meet the most powerful creature in all Valorian.
Chapter 8. Discovers. The walls began to crack. Whatever was approaching, it was so massive that its movements were breaking the mountain's interior structure. The stone itself groaned under the strain. We need to leave, Alindra said, urgently. Now. They ran back through the inner chamber, through the Golem hall, toward the trap corridor, but behind them they heard stone shattering. A massive claw, easily 10 feet long, punched through the wall of the inner chamber. The claw was covered in scales that looked almost black, edged with silver, ancient and powerful. They ran faster. Through here, Declan led them into a side passage, one they hadn't noticed before. It was narrow and winding. clearly not meant for anything large. Behind them, the mountain continued to shake. The ancient dragon Ashenclaw was moving through the fortress, and its massive bulk was tearing apart the carefully carved chambers. The passage opened onto a ledge overlooking a massive central shaft. It descended into darkness below and rose into shadows above. And across the shaft, they could see other ledges, other passages. The mountain's interior was a maze of chambers and tunnels, all connected by the central shaft. There, Pip pointed across the shaft. Maybe 50 feet away was another tunnel entrance. If they could reach it, they might be able to find a way out. But there was no bridge, just empty air and a very long fall. Boots of storm walking, Declan said suddenly, looking at Pip. You're still wearing them, right? Pip looked down at his feet, then at the gap, and then back at his feet. You can't be serious. You can walk on air during storms, Alindra said. The mountain's shaking. The air is disturbed. It's not weather, but it's close enough. That's the worst logic I've ever heard, Pip said. But he stepped out over the empty air. His foot found purchase on nothing. It works, he said, surprised. The boots were reacting to the turbulent air caused by the ancient dragon's movements. He walked across the empty shaft, each step finding solid air beneath him. Declan and Alindra had to be carried across, one at a time. Once they got to the other side, they continued through more passages, always heading toward the outer edge of the mountain, looking for an exit. Behind them, the sounds of destruction grew louder. Then they heard voices ahead, cultists blocking their path. Can we fight our way through? Pip asked. We have to, Declan said. They charged. There were maybe a dozen cultists surprised by the sudden attack. Declan's arrows flew. Alindra's blessed sword blazed with light. Pip danced between enemies with daggers. It was quick and brutal, and when it was over, they stood among fallen enemies, breathing hard. Which way? Alindra asked. Declan looked around. They were in a large chamber with multiple tunnel exits. He tried to orient himself to figure out which direction led outside, and that's when Stonefang's voice returned, still magically amplified.
No. Did I forget to mention? While you've been playing Infiltrator in my fortress, I had my forces attack your ship. Such a nice vessel. I believe you left something valuable aboard.
Declan's blood ran cold. The artifacts, he said.
4 of the most powerful magical objects in existence,
Stonefang continued.
Guarded by a few sailors with crossbows. I'm sure they fought bravely. I'm sure they did their best. But sea serpents are quite hungry, you know. And after the serpents, I sent my best agents on board.
No, please, no.
Thank you for making this so easy. You kept the artifacts safe all the way to my doorstep.
Pip looked at Declan, horror on his face. He can't have the... Captain Mora is strong, Alindra said, but she sounded uncertain. The crew knows how to fight. Against dragons, Pip said? Against an ancient dragon army? Through a crack in the chamber's outer wall, they could see the distant cove. And in the starlight, they could just make out the storm chaser. It was listing to one side, damaged. Fires burned on the deck, and around it, dark shapes moved in the water.
This trap was never for you,
Stonefang said.
You were the distraction. The real prize was always the artifacts.
And a roar shook the entire mountain. Not Stonefang's voice, but something deeper and older. Ashenclaw was coming. Now, Stonefang said.
Let's discuss what happens next. Surrender and die quickly, or run and die slowly. The artifacts in Valorian are mine.
The chamber's main entrance suddenly collapsed, sealed by falling stone. More tremors shook the mountain as the ancient dragon moved through its interior. But through the crack in the wall, Declan saw movement at the cove. Small figures, people, running on the beach. Some of the crew had made it to shore. They were alive, and that was something. But Zephyr and Ember, the artifacts, Captain Mara, they had no way to know. We can't give up, Declan said fiercely. We've come too far. Agreed, Alindra said, her hand on her sword. But we need a plan. We're trapped in a mountain with a dragon and an ancient dragon. And a massive eye appeared in the crack in the wall. It was easily 3 feet across, with a slit pupil that dilated as it focused on them. The eye was ancient, older than anything living they'd seen. The scales around it were black as midnight and edged in silver. Ashenclaw had found them. The eye studied them for a long moment, and then the creature moved, and the wall beside them cracked and exploded inward. A massive claw reached through, larger than the one they'd seen before. It grasped at air, trying to reach them. "Run!" Alindra screamed. They bolted for the remaining exit, a narrow tunnel barely wide enough for humans, and behind them, Ashenclaw tore at the chamber, widening the hole, trying to reach the small prey that invaded its domain. The tunnel twisted and turned, and they ran blindly, just trying to stay ahead of the ancient dragon's rage. As they ran, Declan's mind raced. The artifacts were in danger or already taken. The crew might be hurt, or worse. They were trapped in a mountain with 2 dragons, and they had no magic, no backup, and no way out. But they were still alive and still fighting. Somehow, some way, they would find a way to turn this around. They had to, because the alternative was letting Stonefang win, and that was not an option. To be concluded in Book 7, Into the Dragon's Den, Part 2. All right, adventurers, we hope you had a really good time in listening to this story tonight. We'll get the next story out here the next day or two. Don't forget, please hit the thumbs up button to like this story, right? And then also don't forget to subscribe so that you'll be notified when the next one comes out. Until next time, adventurers.